Hello everyone. It's a pleasure to see you again in the latest episode of this deeply emotional journey between single mother Ly Hoi-ca and the upright police officer Hung, a love story that, while seemingly fragile, proves to be unexpectedly strong. Two people, once hurt and once alone, find each other in the midst of life's countless upheavals. In the previous developments, we witnessed a heartbreaking moment, when Hoi-ca was verbally attacked in her own home by Hung's mother and a woman named Lan. Their cruel words and scornful looks felt like thousands of blades piercing her already weary heart. It wasn't just humiliation, it was a psychological blow that made her feel as if she had nowhere left to hide. But life, at times, brings forth miracles just when all hope seems lost. An elderly neighbor, who had quietly observed Hoi-ca day after day, stepped forward and changed everything. She saw the kindness in Hoi-ca's every action, and she deeply understood the loneliness Hoi-ca had been silently enduring. She knew Hoi-ca was not the kind of woman who would interfere in someone else's family, nor the type others so carelessly judged. From that place of understanding, the elderly woman stood up for Hoi-ca in front of Hung's mother and Lan. Then came a shocking declaration: she would adopt Hoi-ca as her legal daughter. But this wasn't just a title. It was an act of love, a place of refuge, a promise that said, "From now on, you will never be alone again." With that warm and compassionate presence of a mother figure, Hoi-ca finally saw the light at the end of the tunnel, no longer just a single mother struggling to raise her child alone. For the first time, she felt genuinely loved by a woman, not out of obligation, but from pure, heartfelt affection. Yet happiness is never easily won. Just when peace seemed within reach, the past crept back in, quietly, and with new disruptions. In today's episode, a surprising figure returns, Hung's ex-lover. She reappears after years of absence, her eyes filled with regret and wistful memories. No warning, no call, no message, just a sudden appearance before Hung and Hoi-ca, like a cold gust of wind blowing in from the past. What does she want? Is it truly just a chance encounter, or a calculated move to win back the love she once lost? Will Hung's old feelings be stirred? And how will Hoi-ca, whose heart still bears the scars of betrayal, respond to the ghost of her lover's past? No one knows for sure what will unfold. But one thing is certain, a new challenge has begun. This is no longer just a battle against prejudice, it's now a quiet confrontation between the love they share today and the love that once was. Let's follow this story together, to see whether the love between Hoi-ca and Hung is strong enough to weather yet another storm. And whether the adoptive mother, with her warmth and wisdom, can help them protect the fragile happiness they've just begun to hold on to. Don't look away, because what comes next is sure to move your heart. Let's dive into today's episode. Ever since her adoptive mother came into her life, Hoi-ca felt as though she had been reborn. For her, it wasn't just a change in circumstance, it was a turning point in her soul. For the very first time in countless years, she was able to call someone mother, a short word, yet one that held the weight of all the longing and emptiness she had never dared to speak aloud. For many, having a mother is something taken for granted. But for Hoi-ca, it had always been a distant, almost unreal concept, something precious and out of reach. She grew up among strangers, with no one to lean on, no arms to shield her, and no one waiting for her when storms hit or when she stumbled. Her childhood was a long, harsh stretch of hunger and cold, nights curled up on a thin mat, not knowing where life would take her next. Then came the nightmare: she was assaulted, and became pregnant at an age far too young. The child growing inside her was the result of her deepest pain, but also the only light in her dark world. Tony, the name she gave her son, wasn't just a tiny life. He was her one and only family, her first anchor, and the reason she kept moving forward. It was Tony who kept her from giving up, who made her battered heart grow stronger day by day. Later, when she met Hung, a man of quiet strength, sincerity, and deep responsibility, Ha-I-Ca, for the first time, felt what it meant to be truly protected by someone of the opposite sex. He never asked too much, never judged her past. He simply cared, stayed close, and gave her a sense of safety she had never known. She no longer had to carry the weight of everything alone, because now, there was someone genuinely willing to walk beside her, no matter how rough and wounded the road might be. Then, something miraculous happened, on days that seemed the most uneventful. A kind elderly woman, her neighbor, who had witnessed all of Ha-I-Ca's ups and downs, quietly opened her arms and welcomed mother and child into her life. Unlike so many who had judged and looked down on Ha-I-Ca, this woman made no harsh assumptions. Instead, she chose to adopt Ha-I-Ca as her daughter. For someone who once had nothing, this was a gift greater than any salvation. Her adoptive mother wasn't just a shelter, she was the living embodiment of the family Ha-I-Ca had only dreamed of in tear-filled sleep. She even offered to care for little Tony so that Ha-I-Ca could go to work with peace of mind. The elderly woman understood that with the biting cold of winter, taking such a small child around the marketplace would be exhausting and cruel. She simply said, "Stay home with me. It's warm here, and there's someone to play with. You just focus on work, I'll take care of him." Though she only ran a small convenience stall in her front yard and rarely left the house, she treated Tony like her own grandchild. She tended to his meals, his naps, his clothes, every detail. And Tony, well-mannered and affectionate, adored her, which only deepened her love in return. Thanks to that support, a heavy weight was lifted from Ha-I-Ca's shoulders. She could finally focus on making a living. Beyond harvesting vegetables from her backyard garden, she began buying produce from nearby neighbors to resell at the market. Every bundle of greens was cleaned, trimmed, and tied neatly by hand. Customers didn't just buy from her because of the quality, they returned because of the woman herself, hardworking, kind, and always polite. Those who knew her story, a single mother raising a child on her own, were moved to help in quiet ways, by choosing her stall, slipping her a few extra bills without saying a word. The money she earned from her small stand was just enough for a box of milk, a few warm outfits for Tony, and sometimes a modest meal with a bit of meat. Each coin was the result of relentless effort, and of the quiet compassion found in that humble corner of the market. While she toiled to earn a living, Hung, the quiet man he was, found his own way to express love. One day, while she was still out working, he came to her home and began repairing the old fence around the house. Without a word, he lifted bamboo poles, measured distances, dug holes, and drove stakes into the ground. For him, this quiet act was his silent promise, "I'm here. I will protect you and your child." When Ha-I-Ca returned, she stood still for a moment, watching him, drenched in sweat, focused on tying the netting against the wind. Her heart tightened. Without a word, she walked over, took the hammer from his hand, and together they continued the work, repairing the coop, sweeping the yard, pulling weeds. These small, seemingly mundane acts became the very threads that wove their lives more tightly together than any grand declaration of love ever could. As evening fell and winter's chill slipped through the leaves, their work was finally done. They walked together to pick up Tony from the adoptive mother's house. The moment the boy saw his mother, he ran straight into her arms, then grabbed Hung's hand and babbled stories the whole way home. Seeing her child so joyful, feeling the warmth in Hung's gaze, and watching the calloused hands of her adoptive mother waving from the doorstep, Ha-I-Ca couldn't help but feel her eyes fill with tears. Perhaps, after all the hurt and loss, fate had finally decided not to let her be alone anymore. Perhaps, for the first time in her life, Ha-I-Ca had truly found a family, imperfect, yes, but overflowing with love. That evening, after picking up Tony, the three of them sat down for a simple but heartwarming meal. On the table were just a few vegetables Hia had brought back from the market, and a bit of salted dried fish lovingly simmered by her adoptive mother. Yet somehow, the atmosphere felt strangely comforting. Tony, as he ate, chattered endlessly about his day with Grandma, drawing bursts of laughter from everyone. From time to time, the adoptive mother gently placed extra food into Hia's bowl, reminding her to eat well to stay strong. Hung sat quietly nearby, saying little, but his gaze toward mother and child was filled with a soft tenderness. After dinner, when Tony had fallen asleep in his grandmother's arms, Hia and Hung sat together on the steps of the porch. That night, the moon seemed brighter than usual. Its gentle light spread across the small courtyard, illuminating their quiet yet peaceful expressions. She sat in silence, fingers intertwined, unsure of how to begin. He simply watched her quietly, as if waiting for her to speak. Eventually, she spoke, her voice soft and sincere. "I never thought I'd live a day like this, sitting here with you, with Mom, with our child. Having a home to return to. Having someone to miss. I used to think my life would only be filled with cold winds and dinners soaked in tears. But now, it's different." Hung didn't reply right away. He leaned slightly toward her, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "Because you deserve this. You've been through enough. All I want now is for you to be happy." Her heart tightened at his words. Not from pain, but because, for the first time in her life, she felt truly seen. Not for her past, not for the wounds she had carried, but for who she was now, a brave, resilient woman slowly rebuilding her life. She leaned her head against his shoulder without saying another word. Just silence. But it was a silence filled with trust and peace. In the quiet darkness beyond the porch, the adoptive mother stood by the window, watching them quietly. Her eyes were gentle, her lips parted slightly as if she wanted to say something, then she stopped. Perhaps she was silently praying, for the girl who once lost everything, for the man who stayed without asking for anything, and for the family that was slowly forming, little by little, amidst the cracks of the past. No one knew what storms still lay ahead. But at that moment, in the stillness of a winter night, as their wounded hearts gently began to heal, Hia understood one thing clearly. She was no longer alone. And sometimes, that alone, is enough for someone to keep going. On the other side of town, after Hia's adoptive mother came directly to her home to confront and warn her for insulting and bullying her daughter, Hung's mother was furious. She felt humiliated, disrespected right in her own house. With her strong sense of pride and a lifetime tied to propriety and family reputation, she simply could not accept the fact that her son, a model police officer with a promising future, was involved with a woman who had once been a single mother, whose past was anything but admirable. In her heart, Hia was nothing more than a thorn that wouldn't come loose, a shame she prayed the world would never discover. She often asked herself, out of all the decent, well-raised girls, why did my son have to end up with someone like her? That day, Lan's mother, once Hung's mother's close friend and the one who had arranged a betrothal between their children, paid a personal visit. She was no longer calm and composed as usual. She entered the house with a look of reproach and a voice tinged with frustration. She said bluntly, "You know what? My daughter Lan doesn't deserve to be treated this way. Our entire family has already considered Hung our son-in-law, and now we have to watch her cry day and night because he won't even look her way. If it weren't for love, we would have pulled her back long ago. But if you don't settle this once and for all, we'll have no choice but to cancel the engagement. I'll be honest, my daughter deserves better." Hung's mother could only lower her head and sigh. She knew well that Lan's family was well respected and traditional, and Lan, though not her most beloved choice, was undoubtedly the safest option for her son. She felt guilty. Guilty for making Lon wait. Guilty for failing to control her son's emotions. Guilty for letting a promise made long ago now turn into a burden. So in her confusion, she reassured Lan's mother that her stance hadn't changed. Hung would marry Lon. She promised to speak to her son again, to persuade him to come to his senses. She even began discussing plans for the wedding, the date, the dowry, as if it were only a matter of time. Just then, Hai's adoptive mother happened to pass by. Hearing her daughter's name mentioned from inside the house, a strange intuition struck her. She paused for a moment, then stepped right into the front room. "Excuse me, were you just talking about my Hai's?" Her voice wasn't loud, but firm and unmistakable. The room fell into an abrupt silence. The two women who had been conspiring to force a marriage were momentarily stunned. Lan's mother fumbled to stand, flustered, while Hung's mother frowned slightly, trying to maintain her composure. But Hai's adoptive mother quickly grasped the situation. She looked directly at Hung's mother and spoke with unwavering clarity. "I don't understand why you keep trying to pair your son with someone else, when he's already told you himself, he loves Hai's. They came together with honesty, not deception or manipulation. So why do you keep denying and opposing them?" Hung's mother flushed with embarrassment. Angry, yet unable to refute the truth, she bristled. But with her rigid mindset and towering pride, she simply couldn't accept that a woman with a child from another man, a woman so often the subject of whispers and judgment, might one day become her daughter-in-law. Her voice rose, sharp and cold. "I will never allow someone like Hai's to enter this house. My son deserves a proper wife, someone with a clear background and respectable family. I will only accept Lon. No one else." Those words hit like a slap across the face. But Hai's adoptive mother didn't falter. On the contrary, she stood even taller, eyes resolute. "I don't need you to accept my daughter. Because I, her mother, already have. I will protect her to the very end. Hai's doesn't need a prestigious family name if it comes laced with contempt. She needs love. She needs sincerity. And if Hung is the one who gives her that, then I will stand by them." The argument quickly escalated. On one side, pride and prejudice. On the other, love and protection. Neither woman was willing to back down. In the end, it was Lan's mother who intervened, hoping to keep things from spiraling further. She hastily asked to leave, and Hung's mother, still maintaining a falsely gracious demeanor, walked her to the gate, reiterating one last time. "Don't worry. The wedding will happen. I'll make sure Lon gets the place she deserves." As the door closed behind her, the air in the room grew thick with tension. Hai's adoptive mother turned to face Hung's mother once more. But now, her eyes held no anger, only deep disappointment. She didn't speak another word. She simply shook her head and walked away, leaving behind a heavy sigh and an unspoken battle that had yet to find its end. In each woman's heart, silent calculations churned. But it was no longer just a fight over love. It had become a clash between two worlds, one built on status and appearances, the other rooted in compassion and forgiveness. And so the question lingers. Who will give in? Who will be willing to let go of their pride, so their children can live honestly, with hearts unburdened? The answer, perhaps, still lies ahead. On the other side of town, after Hai's adoptive mother came directly to her home to confront and warn her for insulting and bullying her daughter, Hung's mother was furious. She felt humiliated, disrespected right in her own house. With her strong sense of pride and a lifetime tied to propriety and family reputation, She simply could not accept the fact that her son, a model police officer with a promising future, was involved with a woman who had once been a single mother, whose past was anything but admirable. In her heart, Haicia was nothing more than a thorn that wouldn't come loose, a shame she prayed the world would never discover. She often asked herself, out of all the decent, well-raised girls, why did my son have to end up with someone like her? That day, Lan's mother, once Hung's mother's close friend and the one who had arranged a betrothal between their children, paid a personal visit. She was no longer calm and composed as usual. She entered the house with a look of reproach and a voice tinged with frustration. She said bluntly, "You know what? My daughter Lan doesn't deserve to be treated this way. Our entire family has already considered Hung our son-in-law, and now we have to watch her cry day and night because he won't even look her way. If it weren't for love, we would have pulled her back long ago. But if you don't settle this once and for all, we'll have no choice but to cancel the engagement. I'll be honest, my daughter deserves better." Hung's mother could only lower her head and sigh. She knew well that Lan's family was well respected and traditional, and Lan, though not her most beloved choice, was undoubtedly the safest option for her son. She felt guilty. Guilty for making Lan wait. Guilty for failing to control her son's emotions. Guilty for letting a promise made long ago now turn into a burden. So in her confusion, she reassured Lan's mother that her stance hadn't changed. Hung would marry Lan. She promised to speak to her son again, to persuade him to come to his senses. She even began discussing plans for the wedding, the date, the dowry, as if it were only a matter of time. Just then, Haicia's adoptive mother happened to pass by. Hearing her daughter's name mentioned from inside the house, a strange intuition struck her. She paused for a moment, then stepped right into the front room. "Excuse me, were you just talking about my Haicia?" Her voice wasn't loud, but firm and unmistakable. The room fell into an abrupt silence. The two women who had been conspiring to force a marriage were momentarily stunned. Lan's mother fumbled to stand, flustered, while Hung's mother frowned slightly, trying to maintain her composure. But Haicia's adoptive mother quickly grasped the situation. She looked directly at Hung's mother and spoke with unwavering clarity. "I don't understand why you keep trying to pair your son with someone else, when he's already told you himself, he loves Haicia. They came together with honesty, not deception or manipulation. So why do you keep denying and opposing them?" Hung's mother flushed with embarrassment. Angry, yet unable to refute the truth, she bristled. But with her rigid mindset and towering pride, she simply couldn't accept that a woman with a child from another man, a woman so often the subject of whispers and judgment, might one day become her daughter-in-law. Her voice rose, sharp and cold. "I will never allow someone like Haicia to enter this house. My son deserves a proper wife, someone with a clear background and respectable family. I will only accept Lan. No one else." Those words hit like a slap across the face. But Haicia's adoptive mother didn't falter. On the contrary, she stood even taller, eyes resolute. "I don't need you to accept my daughter. Because I, her mother, already have. I will protect her to the very end. Haicia doesn't need a prestigious family name if it comes laced with contempt. She needs love. She needs sincerity. And if Hung is the one who gives her that, then I will stand by them." The argument quickly escalated. On one side, pride and prejudice. On the other, love and protection. Neither woman was willing to back down. In the end, it was Lan's mother who intervened, hoping to keep things from spiraling further. She hastily asked to leave, and Hung's mother, still maintaining a falsely gracious demeanor, walked her to the gate, reiterating one last time. "Don't worry. The wedding will happen. I'll make sure Lan gets the place she deserves." As the door closed behind her, the air in the room grew thick with tension. Hai's adoptive mother turned to face Hung's mother once more. But now, her eyes held no anger, only deep disappointment. She didn't speak another word. She simply shook her head and walked away, leaving behind a heavy sigh and an unspoken battle that had yet to find its end. In each woman's heart, silent calculations churned. But it was no longer just a fight over love. It had become a clash between two worlds, one built on status and appearances, the other rooted in compassion and forgiveness. And so the question lingers. Who will give in? Who will be willing to let go of their pride, so their children can live honestly, with hearts unburdened? The answer, perhaps, still lies ahead. Ignoring all the gossip, schemes, and judgments from the outside world, Hung and Haicia held on to their unwavering love. They never let outside noise affect their relationship. No matter how loud the world around them became, between them was a quiet, sacred space, simple, sincere, and full of warmth. Whenever he had free time, Hung would make his way over to help Haicia with her work. He didn't mind getting his hands dirty in the garden, didn't shy away from physical labor. As long as he could be beside her, contributing bit by bit to the small home they were building together, he was content. They planted more vegetables, repaired the fence, cleared the garden, all seemingly minor tasks, but each one brought them closer together. One day, as they were tending to the vegetable patch, a garden Haicia had poured months of care into, an accident happened. While pulling weeds, her hand struck a broken piece of bamboo, leaving a long cut that started to bleed. Alarmed, Hung rushed her back to the house, his face full of worry. This time, he wouldn't let her tend to it alone. He gently washed the wound, carefully disinfected it, then wrapped it with layers of gauze. His tone grew stern when he saw her trying to get up and resume work. "No more. Sit down. From now on, I'll handle everything." He wouldn't let her touch water, touch soil, or lift anything heavy. To Hung, even a small cut on her skin felt like a wound on his own heart. In his eyes, in the way he treated her injury, was a love so deep and protective, tender yet steadfast. Haicia was overwhelmed with emotion. After enduring so much pain, after fighting so many battles alone, she realized in that moment that she no longer had to face life by herself. In her heart, she made a quiet promise: no matter what lies ahead, no matter how difficult the road becomes, she would hold on to this love with all her heart. Winter had arrived. The air grew colder by the day, fog covered the path to their home, and the chill crept into every layer of clothing. Tony, her little boy, had grown, and his needs for food, schooling, and medicine only increased. Every time she saw him coughing from the cold, Haicia knew she couldn't afford to be tired. She had no other choice but to keep going. So even in the freezing dawn, she woke early, left Tony in her adoptive mother's care, and went to work. She harvested vegetables, pulled roots, and waded into the icy stream to wash every bunch clean before bringing them to the market. The water numbed her hands, but she pushed through. People at the market admired this petite yet determined woman. Thanks to her clean produce and her story, many supported her, not out of pity, but out of genuine respect. With their help, she earned enough to provide for her son and keep their modest home running. Haicia never wanted to be a burden to Hung. He had already done so much for her, from helping her buy the land, rebuilding the house, painting walls, laying bricks. She wanted to carry her share, not out of pride, but because real love deserves to be built by the effort of both. Realizing it had been too long since they'd gone on a proper date, Hung felt a quiet pang of guilt. All their money and time had gone into rebuilding her life. Romantic dinners were pushed aside. But love, he knew, didn't need grand gestures. Sometimes, the smallest thing said at the right time could move someone to tears. That day, when Hsia returned home from the market, shivering from the cold, she opened the door to find Hung already waiting. In his hands was a warm bag of food and a small box wrapped in pale pink paper. "I made you some ginger soup to warm you up," he said, "and a small gift. It's nothing fancy, but I think you'll like it." Surprised, she opened the box. Inside was a pair of delicate, blush pink earrings, simple, graceful. He stepped closer and gently placed them on her ears. His gaze was so tender that she felt tears rise to her eyes. He didn't say "I love you," but every gesture was proof of a love that ran deep and quiet. "These earrings," he whispered, "are like the love I have for you. Not flashy, but always here, gentle, and lasting." They shared a meal together in their small kitchen. No fancy restaurant, no candles, no flowers, just the two of them, casual conversation, and soft laughter. And that was enough to make the evening feel complete. Tony, at that moment, was sleeping soundly in his grandmother's arms. The house was unusually still. For the first time in a long time, they had a moment just for themselves, no rush, no burden, nothing to hide, nothing to fear. In the cold of winter, inside a humble home in a peaceful countryside, two once broken souls were slowly stitching their lives back together. And it was in that quiet simplicity, in that warmth, that their love became stronger than anything else. While Hung and Hsia were enjoying a season of peace together, their love seemed stronger than ever. Life was still full of hardship, but as long as they had each other, sharing every meal, every chilly gust of early winter, they felt content. Hsia continued working in the fields as usual. She not only took careful care of her small garden but also made the effort to visit nearby households to buy more clean vegetables to sell. Every time she bought produce, she meticulously inspected each bundle. It had to be fresh, chemical-free, pesticide-free. Only then would she nod in agreement. She knew she couldn't sell anything she wouldn't trust herself, because her customers weren't just buying vegetables, they were buying trust, respect, and affection. Every morning, while the mist still clung to the earth, she would rise early, wash the produce in the icy stream, then carry it to the market. Her diligence and integrity earned the community's support. She wasn't rich, but she lived with dignity, and that made people love her. Meanwhile, something unexpected was unfolding on Hung's side, something Hsia had no idea about. That day, while Hung was at the station, a woman appeared, and for a moment, he froze. It was his ex-girlfriend, the woman he had once loved deeply during his youth. They had broken up 4 or 5 years ago. Back then, when they were young, naive, and full of dreams, they loved each other with a rare sincerity. But that love wasn't strong enough to withstand the heavy interference from Hung's mother, a woman who had always sought to control and arrange every part of her son's life. Back then, Hung was still immature, easily swayed by his mother's words. He didn't have the strength to protect the girl he loved. And so, their relationship ended in silence, a long, drawn-out goodbye that stretched across the years. After spending years working far away, the woman had returned unexpectedly. She couldn't find him at the old house, the place where so many memories were kept, and eventually asked around until she found his current address. Still wary of Hung's mother, she didn't dare show up at his home. They agreed to meet at a quiet roadside tea shop in the village, somewhere peaceful enough for an uninterrupted conversation. She looked at him, a little shy, a little nervous. They exchanged a few polite questions, about work, about life. When she learned that Hung still wasn't married, she paused. Hung recognized that look, the eyes of someone who had once shared a part of your youth, someone who still had something left unsaid, but didn't know where to begin. But Hung didn't circle around the topic. He said it plainly. "I'm in love with someone now." Her name is Haica. She's a very special woman, and I'm truly happy when I'm with her. Even if my mother disapproves, I won't let that hurt the woman I love again. I made that mistake once. I won't make it twice. The woman fell silent. She pressed her lips together, as if there was something important she had come to say, a secret, maybe, something that had pushed her to return. But when she saw the calm certainty in Hung's eyes, she swallowed her words. I wish you happiness, she said quietly. Hung looked at her, knowing full well she hadn't said all she meant to. Gently, he offered. If you ever need help, if something's wrong, don't hesitate to ask. We were once a part of each other's youth. We may not be anything now, but I'll still help if you need it. She nodded, then stood up. No tears, but they both knew. Some things, once past, cannot return. Some people are only meant to meet once more, then quietly wish each other well. The meeting ended in silence. They parted like old friends, courteous, calm, and without regret. But for Hung, after that conversation, he was more certain than ever, he would never look back. His love for Haica was something he would protect with everything he had. That night, when he returned home, he didn't tell Haica that his ex had come to see him. Not because he was hiding anything, but because he didn't want the past to cast shadows on the present. He simply watched her quietly as she moved around their modest kitchen, her face tired but her eyes still so gentle. And in that moment, he knew. He was exactly where his heart belonged. That afternoon, just as Haica returned from the market, her back still damp with sweat and her hands full of heavy bags of fresh vegetables, Hung was already standing at her gate. He didn't walk in immediately, just stood there quietly, waiting for her to arrive. When she saw him, she was briefly surprised, but then smiled softly, the kind of smile born from familiarity and understanding. He took the bags from her without saying much, silently helping her put everything away in the kitchen. The air between them felt quieter than usual, and that very silence told Haica something was coming, something that needed to be said. Once everything had been tidied up, Hung sat down on a small bamboo chair on the front porch. He looked at her with eyes full of sincerity and concern. He didn't beat around the bush. He didn't hide anything. He knew, between them, nothing should remain unclear. "Cia, I saw my ex today." The words landed with a slight pause in her breath. Not from jealousy. Not even worry. But because it came so unexpectedly. She looked at him, said nothing, didn't interrupt, didn't judge. She simply waited for him to continue. She came to talk. Just to catch up, to share what's been going on in her life. Nothing more. I told her clearly, that I'm in love with you. That even if my mother opposes it, I won't walk away from the woman I've chosen. I've been weak before. I failed to protect someone I loved because of my mother, and I will never make that mistake again. Haica remained silent. She sat there quietly, her eyes never leaving his face. Hung continued, his voice calm, but filled with emotion. I know, seeing someone reconnect with an ex might make you anxious, doubtful. Honestly, in that moment, I wondered too, whether she came back hoping to rekindle something. But, no, I believe she isn't that kind of person. And even if she were, I wouldn't turn back. Because I know exactly who I need now. The person I want to walk the rest of my life with, is you. He reached out and held her hand, the hand weathered by life, by hardship, yet to him, the gentlest hand in the world. He gave it a gentle squeeze, like a silent promise. I love you, Haica. And I will always protect you. No matter how many trials lie ahead, I just ask that you don't let go. Stay with me. I don't need you to be perfect, I just need you here. His words weren't flowery or grand, but they struck her heart more deeply than anything else could. She hadn't expected this quiet man, once hesitant in front of his mother, to now speak with such clarity and conviction. She looked at him, her eyes shimmering. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. "We've fought through too many storms to get here. I won't let go of it now, not because of something that's already in the past." No more words were needed. The way they looked at each other, the way their hands remained intertwined, that said it all. Inside the little house, with winter creeping in, two hearts sat side by side, warming one another, not with firewood or blankets, but with the quiet flame of a love so sincere it could withstand even the coldest. But, was Hung's unexpected reunion with his ex truly just a casual conversation? Or was there something more, something left unsaid, still hidden beneath the surface? Did she return for a personal reason, a message she never got to share? Or does she still carry feelings for Hung, hoping to rekindle the love that once was? And more importantly, will her presence shake the bond between Hung and Hoica? Hung has chosen to stand by the love he has now. But will the past truly let them go? The love between Hung and Hoica, seemingly strong and unshakable, is about to face yet another test. Everything will be revealed in the next episode. Join us in discovering the secrets behind the ex's return, and witness the heartfelt journey of Hung and Hoica as they fight to protect the love they've built together.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người, hiện tại thì mình vừa hoàn thành xong tập tiếp theo của câu chuyện của Lý Hoài Ca và cảnh sát Hùng nha mọi người. Thì như mọi người đã thấy là ở trong tập này thì có một nhân vật mới xuất hiện ở trong câu chuyện của chúng ta, đó là người yêu cũ của Hùng. Thì liệu cô gái người yêu cũ này quay lại tìm Hùng với mục đích gì? Tại vì hai người đã chia tay nhau cách đây khoảng 5-7 năm rồi, và ngày trước Hùng với cô gái này chia tay nhau thì cũng một phần lý do lớn là do mẹ Hùng phản đối á mọi người. Và hiện tại thì cô gái này thì trước kia đi xuất khẩu lao động ở bên nước ngoài, vì nhà cũng khá khó khăn nên là ngày xưa mẹ Hùng không có đồng ý cho quen. Vậy thì liệu một khoảng thời gian dài như thế thì còn về tìm Hùng làm gì, và liệu cuộc sống của Hùng và Hoài Ca có bị đảo lộn không, tình yêu của họ sẽ như thế nào, thì mời mọi người đón xem phần tiếp theo ở ngày mai nhé. Và cảm ơn mọi người đã theo dõi hết video. Tạm biệt, hẹn gặp lại trong những video tiếp theo.